made. Ending the war in Ukraine on day one. How's that going?
It's tougher. He didn't say, so he maybe said day one once or twice. Mostly he said that's going to be a harder.
He said it dozens of times, Ambassador. Come on, he said it dozens of times. We will end the war on day one. Okay. I am, because I've got to correct you on that. We will end the war on day one. Let me just correct the record.
He also said that this was going to be a harder war to win than the Israel-Hamas.
Brace yourself, because what you're about to see is the political equivalent of a car crash in slow motion. Donald Trump's loyal ally, Carla Sans, steps into a UK radio interview, and within minutes, she's cornered, rattled, and desperately spinning excuses. Every tough question only makes things worse, and instead of clarity, we get contradictions, half-truths, and outright fabrications. This isn't just a bad interview. It's a full-blown collapse on live radio. And what makes it even more explosive is that she's not just defending Trump's record, she's bending reality to do it, forcing herself into a position where the lies pile up until even she can't keep them straight. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because trust me, this exchange exposes exactly why Trump's mouthpieces keep getting shredded whenever they face real questions.
Let's talk about all of that and more with Ambassador Carla Sans, former member of Donald Trump's Economic Advisory Council, former US Ambassador to Denmark, to Greenland and to the Faroe Islands. Ambassador, very good afternoon to you. Thank you for coming on. Let's start, shall we, with those reports that the President Trump had to be quite strongly talked out of firing Jerome Powell, the chair of the Federal Reserve. Why on earth would he want to fire Mr. Powell, and do you think he should do?
Well, I think that President Trump is looking at our debt payments and the fact that we're accumulating debt every quarter. We're borrowing, I think it's every 100 days, about $1 trillion more. It's on an unsustainable trajectory. The American people on both sides of the aisle are very wary of this. They want the debt handled and they want less government spending. So if we look at what he's trying to do, he's trying to lower the interest rates so that our debt payments are lower, because it's accumulating so fast because of the high rate that the Fed has set. If you look at what UK has done, or the European Central Bank, they've been lowering their rates. So the debt is lower in anything you service in abroad, UK or the European Central Bank. He's asking for some relief so that the American people can afford to buy a house, because right now, because of the debt rate that Jerome Powell has set, mortgage rates are at, I think it's a 30-year high. It may be longer.
So he's apparently written a letter sacking Mr. Powell. He's been waving it around to all sorts of Republican politicians. It sounds like, Ambassador, you think he would be justified in sending that letter.
Well, so what I think is that Jerome Powell should lower the interest rates, like our friends and cousins across the pond have done, and then people will be able to afford to buy a house again, to get a mortgage, to buy a car on credit, and to service our debt.
That interest rates would come down if inflation came down. Inflation since President Trump took office had gone up.
The inflation is almost nothing. It's just several.
It's not if you've seen your groceries go up under a president.
No, they've gone down.
Inflation has gone up.
Prices have gone down. Like eggs are much cheaper. Maybe, I don't know, more than a couple of dollars cheaper a dozen.
Eggs might be, Ambassador, but the cost of living across the board, inflation, CPI, is up under President Trump, despite his promises to bring it down.
Just a tiny bit, but remember, this is still Joe Biden's economy we're living in. President Trump has not even been in office for 6 months, so he's working to implement his policies. Gas prices have come down since he's been elected. People are feeling wealthier. The least educated people with the lowest income, their incomes are actually raising higher, faster than any other groups, faster than inflation. So they're finding some relief early on. But this is going to take time. And as a matter of fact, I think he's justified in asking for the interest rates to come down. Let's not forget, Jerome Powell has been so political that he was lowering the interest rates whenever Joe Biden had an election or there was a Democrat election opportunity in the midterms or the presidential.
You can't put all the blame and the burden on Joe Biden. Since Donald Trump took office, inflation is up, unemployment is up, and growth is down. For the first few months, economically, it's been a disaster.
So it hasn't been a disaster. As a matter of fact, billions of dollars have come into the United States because of the tariffs. This year, we'll have
paid by American companies.
That's not true. It's mostly paid by the foreigners. No, it's very little inflation in the U.S. It's just a little over 2% right now. It's not true.
Of course, so tariffs on imports are paid by U.S. companies.
Generally not. Generally, it's the foreign country, and that's why he's putting tariffs in place. Why do you think that he's been so upset about the tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers that have been excluding American goods and punishing American exporters going to places like the UK and the EU? For instance, the US, we charged 2.5% historically on European cars. They charged us 10%. And then there was the big VAT tax, the 20% on top of that, where every state in the US has a much lower state sales tax, much lower. So I think that what you'll see is our economy, like look at the stock market. It's not the economy, but it's a good sign of business confidence and investor confidence. But what President Trump is focused on is Main Street, that the working people get some relief. And you will see that within this calendar year.
Let me ask you about some of the other promises that he made. Ending the war in Ukraine on day one. How's that going?
It's tougher. He didn't say, so he maybe said day one once or twice. Mostly he said that's going to be a harder.
He said it dozens of times, Ambassador. Come on, he said it dozens of times. We will end the war on day one. Okay. I am, because I've got to correct you on that. We will end the war on day one. Let me just correct the record.
He also said that this was going to be a harder war to win than the Israel-Hamas war. So he did say it was going to be a harder war to end than that war.
He still promised to end it on day one, though, didn't he?
And he hasn't. Regarding Hamas. So he's working on ending this. I will just say this. President Trump was the only world leader that picked up the phone and tried to get to a peace deal. President Biden and the top Europeans
Ambassador, you'll be with
were not working
the promise wasn't I will pick up the phone and try. The promise was I will end the war on day one.
He is working on.
But that's not the promise. You accept it's a broken promise. It's a broken promise.
It's not a broken promise.
How is it not a broken promise? He said, I will end the war on day one. And we're now on day, what are we on, 100 and something?
So
and
I thought you were the host. I didn't know this was a debate. I'm sorry.
It's a conversation.
But as a matter of fact, President Trump is working to end this war.
Yes.
His team is working tirelessly to end this war. And what has happened, they thought that they had a ceasefire deal in place. President Vladimir Putin, he retraded over and over. We saw Zelensky. He has incentives to enrich himself from this war.
But these are excuses.
There's not a great trade on either side.
A promise was made, a promise wasn't kept. Let's return to the economy. Donald Trump, we will strike 90 deals in 90 days. Trade deals, this is. How many has he struck?
Well, he's doing great trade deals. He's done one with the UK, thankfully, that we're very thrilled about that. India's soon to come. Indonesia's completed. EU is tough. I mean, the EU, we have former Prime Minister of Denmark, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, who's working on the trade deal, saying, well, we need to punish the U.S. That's not a way to get to a good trade deal to say we're going to be punitive.
He signed 2 deals. He said he would sign 90 in 90 days. We're well past 90 days. He's done 2.
Scott Bessent and his team and the
it's another
US
broken promise.
Trade representative, they're working on it very hard. Listen, things take longer than they should.
So why did he promise?
But the good news is it's a work in progress. Rather than attack what hasn't gotten accomplished yet, even though it's in the works, I wish that the UK would work on doing some of the things that President Trump is doing, following his lead of bringing down the costs for the people of the UK, bringing down the cost of energy, the cost of food.
Ambassador,
when I look and see that you've lost GDP in the last year, that actually the UK economy is shrinking. It's a tragedy and a disaster. We need our allies to be strong, to be prosperous.
To be fair, we are one of the 2 countries that has done a trade deal with Donald Trump.
Prosperous.
Let me just ask if we could about one final promise. We will release the Epstein files, Donald Trump, before the election. Have a listen to this. This is Donald Trump yesterday.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going.
Why won't he release all the files like he promised to?
I don't know that it's under his power, and I don't know that it's under Aunt Bondi's power. I know she said she had the
president of the United States. He doesn't have the power to release some files?
I know. I hear it may be actually under the control of attorneys in the court of New York. If that's true, then they should release it. Pam Bondi should release what she should. The American people on both sides of the aisle are very upset that there hasn't been more transparency around this issue.
Donald Trump just said no one cares.
And was doing. I think some of us do care.
He's wrong to say that. He's wrong to dismiss it.
I think he's getting bad advice in this case, and I think that there will be more information that comes out. There must be an intelligence community reason that this isn't being released, because certainly Pam Bondi said she had the list on her desk.
Just on that clip, finally, Ambassador, I think you're telling me he's wrong to dismiss it as boring and say nobody's interested in it.
Well, and he may be getting advice that this is something that there may be things that cannot be released to the public. That's what I'm thinking. And I wish he would just tell us if that's so.
But is it boring? Is it boring, this issue? Do you find it boring?
I think he's energized
of hundreds of people. Is that boring?
He's energized about rebuilding the economy. He's focused on the big things. This isn't a big thing. The economy, our security.
It's not a big thing. Child abuse of hundreds, if not thousands of children isn't a big thing.
If you look at the country as a whole of people being safe, being prosperous, it is not the main thing. No. And the president
it's only potentially so much thousands of children. I can't believe this, Ambassador. Because it's potentially only thousands of children that were abused by a prolific, notorious sex offender. It's not a big deal for most people.
Listen. These were young women.
Do you realise how that offensive that is to those to his victims?
We're offended. No, women and men do not like this story at all. But as a matter of fact, it is. I'm sorry to say this. It's a distraction from the main thing: keeping the country safe, making sure that the country is economically successful, bringing together the whole of government for our country. It is a distraction.
His victims' calls for justice, his victims' demands that the public is made aware of who was helping Epstein cover up his crimes is a distraction. Seriously.
Listen, I agree with you. I think that there should be whatever can be disclosed should be disclosed. However, I will say this. It is a distraction from the main thing. The U.S. president should never have to say another word about this.
Well, he wouldn't if he released the
whole country and literally the world on his shoulders.
All right.
Now let's break this down. If you've been following Carla Sands' media appearances, you already know this isn't the first time she's been grilled. And believe it or not, this one actually goes better for her compared to her past disasters. That should tell you just how low the bar is. Time and time again, when she sits in front of a camera or microphone, her only role is to defend Trump at all costs, not with evidence, not with facts, but with blind loyalty. She bends every answer back into praise for Trump, no matter how weak or contradictory it sounds. That's her entire playbook. And while yes, this particular interview wasn't the absolute worst showing of her career, the cracks were still painfully obvious. Here's the deeper problem. Trump and his allies love to overpromise. They campaign on bold, flashy claims, sweeping promises of ending wars on day one, signing 90 trade deals in 90 days, fixing the economy instantly. But when those promises inevitably fall apart, it's people like Carla Sans who are sent out to clean up the mess. They're forced to explain the unexplainable, defend the indefensible, and pretend the promises were never really promises in the first place. And that's exactly why she keeps getting shredded in these interviews. She's not armed with the truth, she's armed with spin, and spin collapses the moment a tough question lands. Here's the core issue that keeps blowing up in Trump's face, and by extension in Carla Sands' interviews. Trump simply cannot resist making promises he knows he can't deliver on. He bites off more than he can chew every single time, and then it's left to his surrogates to try and spin their way out of the fallout. Think about it. If Trump hadn't gone on stage bragging about magical economic turnarounds, instant trade deals, or day-one peace treaties, these interviewers wouldn't even have the ammunition to corner Carla Sands with. But because Trump's entire political brand is built on exaggeration and bluster, his allies are stuck doing damage control, pretending he never said what he very clearly said. And when you examine the actual claims Sans made in this interview, it becomes clear she's not just spinning, she's outright misleading. She confidently declared inflation was basically zero. That's flat out false. As of mid-2025, inflation sits around 2.5%. Yes, a few prices like eggs have dropped a little, but the overall cost of living is still climbing. Most people feel that squeeze every time they shop, and no amount of wordplay changes that reality. Then there's her cheerleading over tariffs. She painted it as if Trump's tariffs were some genius strategy, funneling billions back into America. What she didn't say, because it undermines the whole talking point, is that those costs don't vanish into thin air. They get passed down to American businesses and consumers. That so-called tariff revenue is coming straight out of the pockets of ordinary Americans. So when she brags about it, she's basically celebrating higher costs for the very people Trump claims to be helping. This is the cycle. Trump inflates, exaggerates, and flat-out lies. His allies like Sans then twist themselves into knots defending it. And the American people? They're the ones stuck footing the bill. And that's the punchline of this entire fiasco. Carla Sans can spin all she wants, but the truth doesn't change. Tariffs didn't magically punish foreign countries. They raised costs right here at home, hitting American families and businesses. Trump's so-called 90 trade deals in 90 days never materialized. We're half a year into his presidency, and only 1 or 2 deals exist on paper. The promise was bold. The delivery was non-existent. And then there's the Epstein files. On the campaign trail, Trump promised full transparency. He told the public he would release the files, but when the time came, silence, excuses. Suddenly it's not his responsibility, suddenly it's boring, suddenly we're told to just move on. But you can't unpromise something like that. Once you pledge accountability, you either deliver, or you expose yourself as just another politician playing games. This is why Carla Sans keeps stumbling in these interviews. She isn't armed with facts, she's saddled with Trump's broken promises. Every time she sits in front of a mic, she's forced to defend contradictions that can't be defended. And each time she digs herself deeper, spinning lie after lie because that's the only play she's got. At the end of the day, this isn't just about Carla Sans. It's about the political strategy Trump has relied on for years, making sweeping claims to energize his base, only to leave his allies scrambling when reality doesn't line up. And that's why, no matter how loyal his surrogates remain, they keep walking into the same trap, defending the indefensible. Until next time, this has been The Whip Line. Thanks for tuning in.